This week,
Japan's prettiest railways.
there's a bit of a push for the last carriage. Maybe it has the best views.
Chomping your way through the Big Apple.
We just eat crazy things for the sake of eating crazy things. The things that we eat are actually really, really delicious.
And road testing apps for keeping you mobile.
This service gives you a bit of a lie-in.
Yeah, exactly.
Results.
This is the Tadami Line in central Japan. It's regarded as one of the country's most beautiful train routes and hugs the Tadami River as it makes its way from Fukushima to Niigata prefectures. And it's especially beautiful in Japan's autumn colors.
The train stations along the Tadami Line are so unassuming and quaint. Look, this doesn't even look like a train station. It looks more like a post office to me. But it's really bustling inside.
People come here for the view, and it attracts a particular crowd. It's popular chiefly with older people, a handful of railway enthusiasts, and of course, at this time of year, leaf peepers.
There's a bit of a push for the last carriage. Maybe it has the best views.
Today's unusually busy. Normally, only around 35 people a day come here for the 8 daily departures. It's a serene trip through some of the country's lesser-known backwaters. But there's a problem.
So this is Tadami Station, and everyone has to get off now because the next 6 stations are the ones that are being damaged in the floods.
This area escaped the twin tsunami and nuclear disasters that made Fukushima's name globally infamous. But just 2 months later, Mother Nature struck again. Heavy storms caused flooding that made a long stretch of the track here unusable. A handful of stations were shut and to this day remain abandoned.
So this is one of the 6 disused stations, and this sign here says beware of the bears.
Locals don't much use the service that is remaining. It's less useful now that you can't travel uninterrupted from one side to the other. But it does still occupy a special place in some people's hearts.
Wow, look at this view. The colors are amazing.
For a start, it's a beautiful thing to photograph.
ここは春夏秋冬四季が一番はっきりしてるところ。春は桜でしょ。夏は川霧。で秋は紅葉。そして冬は雪の花が咲いてものすごく綺麗な。日本中探してもこういうところってはないんですよ。だから私ここに生まれて育ってもう69年だけどここだけ撮ってる。よそに行かないとここだけで年間300日撮っても全然飽きない。
There's quite a view from up here, no matter what season it is, and it's not one that Kenko Hoshi is alone in enjoying.
In Thailand, we don't have any autumn. And I came for the autumn. Leaves change a color. I thought this view and train moving is very perfect, perfect shot.
How did you feel in 2011 when the floods destroyed part of the Tadami Line?
地域の人たちだけはあんまり利用しないんだけど、ただし今只見線っていうのはそういうに日本でも一番の絶景路線ということで、外国からのいわゆるインバウンドの人たちがいっぱい注目してくれて、只見線を普及させることによってこの地域をそれによって元気にする、活性化して地域経済にも貢献できる、いわゆるスイスの山岳鉄道のような形に。
The operator, JR East, plans to restore the entire line by 2021. But in the meantime, in an attempt to get more young Japanese using the line, these comedians are hosting tours of it.
さあ今から皆さん只見線に乗りますので景色を楽しんでこういうねローカル電車もなかなかないですから都会にはねそれ雰囲気とか情緒を楽しみながら景色を楽しみながら我々との会話を楽しみながら
You'll notice a very different crowd from the passengers I was with earlier. This time, it's exclusively young women, most of whom would probably never have come here in the past. Each comedian, including this palm reader, takes turns entertaining each group of passengers, so everyone gets their money's worth.
Money line
Money line, not
Yeah.
very long.
happy line
The Tadami experience also takes in local temples and the Kanayama well, where you can drink the naturally occurring sparkling water.
So I expected to see a lot of old people on a bus tour like this, but I was really surprised to see so many young people. I think it's a really clever marketing tour to get these comedians on board. This looks like a lot of fun. And if you're planning a visit soon, here's the travel show guide of things to see and do in Japan this winter.
The Sapporo Snow Festival is arguably Japan's most famous winter spectacular. Around 2 million people head for the northern city every year to see the 200 snow and ice sculptures carved there. Entrance is free, and the next one starts on February the 5th. Japan's a very popular ski destination, and many people tend to head for Niseko, which is thought to receive more snowfall than any other resort in the world, or Nagano, which hosted the Winter Olympics back in 1998. A good alternative, though, is Zao in the Tohoku region, famous for a snowscape dominated by trees blasted sideways by the Siberian snow. One of the more memorable trips on the travel show was to see the snow monkeys of Jigokudani in Nagano Prefecture. A troop of wild macaques comes to the hot springs to bathe. It happens all year round, partly because they're fed by the park wardens, but we think it's best to come in January and February for that extra winter wonderland experience. If it's wildlife you're after, then Shiratoko on the northern island of Hokkaido is well worth thinking about. It's the country's most untouched national park and the place to go and see the mating rituals of the red-crowned cranes. You can combine it with a careful walk along the drift ice or a ride out on one of the icebreaker ships there. And winter's also a really beautiful time to head for the Buddhist monasteries at Mount Koya, south of the second city, Osaka, for some meditative calm. Stay overnight with the monks, eat what they eat, and set your alarm for morning prayers. We're told the absolute peace that comes with snow in the mountains is a magical experience. Next this week, we're off to southwest China to meet the man responsible for one inspirational building project in the mountains of Guizhou.
今年78岁了，这个城堡就是我和村民。我们当地的村民和到甚至我们贵阳市的一些周边的这样一些群众，我不太喜欢城市生活，因为我老家是农村人，我本人就是从小在农村长大的，所以对农村的那一种情怀，对农村的一种乡愁，是我一直永远都不会忘记的。你这个具体对每一件作品，或者对它的整个的这个打造的话，都突出了那一种原生状态。因为当地村民 住的都是住的是一些少数民族，苗族啊、布依族，他们从小呢就是开石头，这个利用石头来建房子，所以他们的造就呢就是一身敲打石头的本事，外边感觉都是很粗糙的，而且这种粗，它不等于说就是烂，但他做的这些东西呢，它很自然，不很拘泥，就像儿童绘画。最大的成绩不是我现在堆了好多石头，堆了好多东西，我觉得呢就是一种精神的磨练。我不浮躁，我不能急功近利。你这个建设了，远远我只做一半，就留下一半呢，留给自然，留给老天，甚至留给后人，留给历史来完成另外一半。
Still to come here on the travel show.
Lucy's here with the best tech for getting you around town fast.
This is simply a case of following the arrow and making your way safely to your destination.
And we pull on our eating trousers for one of New York's more eclectic foodie tours.
Doing good, we're doing good.
We just eat crazy things for the sake of eating crazy things. The things that we eat are actually really, really delicious.
The Travel Show, your essential guide wherever you're heading.
You may have noticed in recent years ride-hailing apps replacing the traditional arm in the air. Taxi! And it's easy to see why. In just a couple of taps, your pre-booked cab turns up right at your feet. Uber's the market leader in most of the world, but some have raised concerns about its working practices, and the service has faced suspensions and even outright bans in a few places. So what's the alternative? Here's our guide to the best of the rest. First, a brand new app. It's called Get Together. It mainly serves the UK currently in London and Manchester, and it's a black cab ride-sharing service on routes they say are underserved by public transport. So I'm standing at the start of one of the prefixed routes. It's a pretty familiar and easy to use interface, so with just one click, the cab should be along in around 5 minutes. Fares start at about £2 and you'll be sharing with other passengers, which is fine when they're as nice as Lucy here. This service gives you a bit of a lie-in.
Yeah, exactly.
Result.
Yeah.
In London, the service is limited to just 4 routes, but there are plans to roll it out to other areas across the city. I like the fact that you can hop on and off at any point on the route, and the fact that the cabs use bus lanes, which means you don't have to sit in traffic. Your taxi options differ though, depending on what part of the world you're in. Andrew here has been looking through the options for us. So what are some of the best apps that I should be downloading?
It really depends on where you live.
Okay.
And so if you're in the States, you're probably going to be using Lyft. It's been a bit of the underdog in the Uber battle, but it is making good ground. Here we've got Manhattan, we've got Fifth Avenue. You can choose the different type of car you want, and so depending on the amount of people you've got, or if you want to go luxe, or if you've got a kid and you want a child seat. Add your destination, and so let's say we want to go to Macy's, then it brings up the total of what it's going to be, you request it, and then it arrives. If you are in Europe, you're probably going to be looking at My Taxi.
Yeah.
It's available in I think about 50 different cities in Europe in 9 different countries. And it's very similar interface that you say where you are, it can geolocate you, or you can put in a destination or a location that you are. You then order a taxi. It's not the same sort of tailored service that you get with Lyft or with Uber, but you get region-specific cars.
Okay.
And so if you're in London and you want a black cab because you want to support the black cab community and mixing the old with the new. For the next one, I've gone a bit strange.
How strange?
Pretty strange. And so we've got Pedal Me.
Oh wow.
So this is actually a ride-hailing app where you get driven on a bike. And so
a summer app.
A summer app. You can see here that we've got our location there. Add your drop-off. So you go, I want to go to Buckingham Palace. because why wouldn't you? And then it comes up with a little, that's going to cost you just less than £10. And so it's actually pretty reasonable.
Not as expensive as a tuk-tuk in London.
No, exactly. And so it's a similar price to what an Uber would be.
Yeah.
And you get to have a bit of an experience too.
And just in case you don't fancy sitting in traffic all day, there's Beeline. It's not really classed as a sat-nav. Instead, they call it a smart compass that attaches to the handlebars of any bike, even higher bikes like this, which makes it handy for exploring big cities all over the world. Put the destination in your phone and the app will relay the instructions to your Beeline. It's incredibly straightforward. While some riders will strap a dedicated cycling computer or a smartphone to their handlebars, that can prove quite distracting, whereas with this, it's simply a case of following the arrow and making your way safely to your destination.
Finally this week we're off to New York City and to drop in on a food club that aims to try out the most interesting dishes the town has to offer. But you can forget the usual salt beef bagels or pastrami on rye. The gastronauts are looking for something a little special.
New York is a food city. There's a lot of different kinds of foods to eat. Tremendous ethnic diversity in New York. We're in Flushing, which is New York's kind of major Chinatown. It's really big, it's really far away, about 40-minute subway ride, but it's still inside the city. We're going down here. So this is the luxurious entrance to the Golden Mall. We'll descend into the stomach of Flushing. I love coming here. Whenever I'm in Flushing, I try to stop by and at least have some lamb dumplings or some pig ears or some duck heads. My name is Curtis Kaleo. I'm one of the founders of the Gastronauts, which is a club for adventurous eaters here in New York. We started the club in 2005, and it started off in a tiny little Malaysian Chinese place in Manhattan, Chinatown, and it was 6 people, and we had pork intestines, and we had tripe, and it was a fantastic feast. And the next time we met, there were 12 people, and then the next dinner, there were 20 people, and then 30, and then 50, and then 100, and then it just kind of kept going. So now we've got, I think, somewhere around 2,500 members in New York City, and 1,500 in Los Angeles, and 1,000 in San Francisco. The Gastronauts is not a dinner club that's about eating out in fancy restaurants in Manhattan. That's not the kind of club we are. We are interested in going to more far-flung places throughout New York City, to the other boroughs, to the different ethnic sections. So the club meets once a month, and every month we find a different restaurant or place to make us an amazing, usually 4 or 5 course feast that features the more challenging aspects of that particular cuisine. We've had lamb's head in a Cretan Greek restaurant. We've had baluks, which is a 16-day fertilized egg, which the Filipinos and the Vietnamese love to eat. Tomorrow we're going to have Sri Lankan food in Staten Island, and to get there we're going to have to take a subway, a ferry, and a van to get to the restaurant.
Sri Lankan we call Wamputu Moju, but this is eggplant. It's like a sweet and sour.
Sanjay is great. He's had this restaurant for at least 10 years from what I can see. Before that he cooked in Saudi Arabia and in Bahrain as a private chef to somebody very important. And he's traveled all over the world. Restaurants, they're usually extremely excited to see us because, you know, it's small, out-of-the-way places that don't see, 30 people coming at once,
Hi, my name is Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay.
Welcome to Randiva. Thank you. So before I start to the main course, I'm going to show you the baby goat today, what I cook. So I'm going to bring it around everybody, okay?
One of the biggest misconceptions about the gastronauts is that we just eat crazy things for the sake of eating crazy things. That's not true. The things that we eat are actually really, really delicious.
That's chicken liver, that's gizzard kebab, and that's lamb black curry on beef.
This is unsurpassed. Excellent.
The Gastronauts is a food club, but it's also a social club. We're a really mixed bunch. There's journalists, there's lawyers, there's a few policemen, there are architects, there are construction workers. It's a very diverse group. People have relationships. There's a gastronaut's marriage. There's a gastronaut's baby. Someone has a tattoo of the gastronauts on their forearm. So it's become a fixture in people's lives. Gastronauts is not really an eating club for people who want to eat in Manhattan. It's a club for people who want to explore the outer reaches of their city and what it has to offer.
Well, that's it for this week. Coming up next week, Rajan's in Dubai for a special program. He heads out deep into the desert to try his hand at traditional falconry, 2,000 feet in the air from a hot air balloon.
2,500 years ago, the Bedouin relied on the falcon the way you and I rely on the supermarket, you know? So the falcon was used to put food on the table. This is kind of it, I mean, and that's why it has such a big stature up. So traditionally the way it worked, although it still happens today, birds from Europe and Asia migrate over the Middle East on their way to Africa. Because on that migration was when the Bedouin would have trapped their falcons from the wild and then just really use them for the winter months. At the end of winter they would untie the birds and release them back to the wild. Really a beautiful system.
Unique experience and what a beautiful animal.
Don't forget, you can join us on the road by signing up to our social media feeds. But in the meantime, from all of us here in the Fukushima Prefecture in Japan, it's goodbye.